And whoa, look at Magoo. Magoo streaks into the...
Thorpe's got past Gavors. They lock handlebars as they go through, but Thorpe's done.
Here comes Bradshaw to the outside of Bale. He takes over the number 2 position, and Bradshaw is not done.
Welcome, Motocross History team. Today I'm going to be sharing a video regarding Broc Glover, an interview that was held with Broc Glover about 5 years ago. And he specifically talks about his transition from the 125s to the 500s. Both were successful. He won 3 championships in each class. And kind of, with the exception of 1982, skipped the 250 class. He's going to talk about that now. In the background, I have the second moto of the 1985 Gainesville National, the 500 National. The two main players were him and David Bailey. I've shown and kind of broken down the first moto many times, where he and David Bailey kind of go neck and neck the whole time, and David Bailey, in an attempt to pass Broc on the last turn of the last lap, crashes pretty hard. But I was never able to find, for several months, the second moto. So this is the second moto. I was finally able to find it. David Bailey did race the second moto injured. And so even though Broc Glover won it by a mile, David Bailey still finished second injured, which says something to his character. One of the main reasons for starting this channel, because it helped me, motocross helped me so much. I wanted to shed light on veterans and the epidemic that is going on currently in the veteran community and in the active duty community, in the military overall, of great men, great warriors taking their lives. This one is a quick story of Michael Froede. Michael Froede enlisted in the military, I think in 2007, and he signed up in the Army, enlisted as an 11 Bravo, which is infantry, and after going through basic training was assigned to 10th, I think the 10th Mountain Division, up in Fort Drum outside of Syracuse, New York. He was involved in a pretty heavy battle on one occasion where he got his bell rung pretty badly by an IED. Life went on. He was cleared for duty, and he eventually submitted an application to a special operations unit, which, I'm not going to get into specifics because I can't talk about it, but dealt more in the clandestine or espionage side of the house. After years of working in this new realm, in the espionage realm, there's changes in his behavior were noticed by people around him, co-workers, family members. And he did not, unfortunately, get the treatment and the help he so much needed, and ended up taking his life one day. Michael was really good at the job that he did in the special operations community. However, the side effects that came along with it, when his family members, specifically his ex-wife, was interviewed, she started to notice differences in his behavior, anger. He would be short with her in certain responses. Then he would shrug it off and say there's nothing wrong with him. It progressively got worse, and when he wasn't on operations and was back home in the United States, it got to a point where on one occasion he thought he was being followed. There was no clear reason for him to think he was being followed, but he was convinced that he was being followed, and he would do things, well, like for instance, if he thought he was being followed while he was driving, he would do a quick, he'd rubberneck, do a quick 180, take photos of the people he thought were following him. If he was on foot, he would do the same thing. And then he would turn these photos into his security officers at his unit. They didn't know what to think of it. He talked to certain people in his leadership, according to what I researched. They had him talk to somebody, perhaps a therapist or psychologist, who then cleared him, and he kept on going. His wife, his ex-wife, who actually is a professional in this career, psychology, noticed that something was not right with him, And that ended up, after many attempts to try and get him help, it ended up leading to their divorce. They had two wonderful little girls who were, as the article states, were his world. On one occasion, it got to the point where he was going to spend a month with them in the summer. And right before that happened, he was stationed at Fort Meade in Maryland. He went to a mall in Maryland, went to the parking garage, third floor, and decided to throw himself off the third floor. And this case, unfortunately, fell through the cracks and was missed after all the signs were there. This guy obviously needed help, and that help was not given, even though people knew about it. His leadership knew about it. And it's extremely unfortunate. And I think that is maybe one of the reasons why it's happening to other people. I definitely can sympathize with this guy. Throughout my career, I was never an instructor, never did anything like that. I was on operations all throughout my entire career, with the exception of the time that we were in lockdown because of what was going on in 2020. And my unit only really took that lockdown seriously for about 2 months, and then we were back to work. But during those 2 months, I was at home, and there were times, the reason why I decided to share this article, there were times where I thought I was being followed if I was just doing something benign, like running errands for my wife, going to the pharmacy, going to the store, and I swore I was being followed. Now, I have a wonderful spouse who actually works in the community, and I share everything with her. And so I came back after one time. I swore I thought I was being followed. I talked to her, told her about it, and she took a very, very good objective standpoint and helped me see it through a very objective point of view. And we dissected it and unpacked it. And she asked me, why do you think is there any logical reason do you think you would be followed? And there wasn't. There just literally wasn't. And so logic entered the situation. I was able to, gain clarity on it, and it didn't bother me anymore after that. But I can see how if I did not have that spouse, I probably would have gone down that same rabbit hole, unfortunately. And my wife, caring for me as much as she did, she knew that I needed help. And so she told me, hey, we're going to go talk to somebody. I don't want to say she had to drag me there, but she very, very forcefully had to convince me to go talk to somebody. And that made all the difference in the world. And that really helped me understand what was going on and helped me understand that, hey, these traits that you have learned that make you very good at your job, if they, for whatever reason, end up bleeding over into your personal life, they will destroy any relationship, any part of your life that is pure or that is good or that brings happiness to you. You have to find a good way to compartmentalize it while you're doing the job. If you cannot do that, then you need to get out of that job. Unfortunately, Michael did not have that help, and we see what the end result was. So if any of you want to help or want to know more about this, you can get in touch with me directly. I'll leave my email in the description along with this article, and we'll take it from there. But please keep these great warriors and these great brothers with whom I served in your mind, because they are going through internal battles and struggles on a daily basis to try and overcome them. Going back to that part where not letting these traits bleed over into your personal life, from day one when you're put into training, you are taught to be a problem solver. You're taught that there's no problem that you cannot solve. And in speaking from a career standpoint, that may be true. But from a personal standpoint, we are not equipped to solve every problem on our own without asking for help. I would go as far as to say we're under-equipped because of the type of job that we do. But let's get back to the action. If I'm off on any of this, or if you see anything that you would like to point out with regards to what Broc says, please leave a comment. If you'd like to know more about this, or if you'd like to hear more about this, let me know, and I'll put out more videos with regards to Broc's career and the history of the 500s overall, and how they kind of built the sport, and how we've kind of forgotten that the 500s, the 500 class was the premier part of the sport for decades. So let me know your thoughts, and I hope you enjoy this video.
You went from winning 3 125 national titles in a row, blam, to 500 national class. Didn't mess with the 250s. Yamaha put you straight into the 500. Mm-hmm. How crazy was that going from the 125 class to the 500?
Yeah, I get to chuckle about that a little bit. It was definitely something our top Japanese liaison at the time, he was highly opposed to it, and he just thought it was absolute insanity to throw a 125 rider on a 500 right off the bat. Mm-hmm. The 500 two-strokes were known. I mean, it was the man's class, no question about it. It was the premier class, powerful bikes, not so controllable. And so I remember the very first time we went and tested those bikes, and I was just highly concentrating on getting the suspension set up, getting the bike set up. I really didn't care about lap times. It was kind of on a track. It was whatever, kind of a makeshift track. And I remember at the time, my teammate Mike Bell had been out there for a couple of days, and he was going good. You know, he was definitely going fast. And he was clearly going faster than I was, but again, I wasn't even trying to like, oh, how fast can I go? It's like, does this shock feel good? Or I was just total bike setup. Yeah. And I remember him coming, it's like, Broc, Broc's not, are you sure you want to do 500s? Like, it's not too late to go to a 250, like, geez, give me a break. I've only been on the bike one day, give me another day or two, And so I remember the very first national, it was Southwick, which is a sand track. Again, I don't know why, but Southwick I won many times on. I think I won the first 6 or 8 motos I ever raced at Southwick, which makes zero sense. And I went 1-1 at the first national on a 500. And I remember coming off the track afterwards, and I said, "Hey Max, are you sure? You think I still should ride 125s?" And then the next week was, I think, Mount Morris, and I went 1-1 again. So the first 4 motos I won all 4, and I actually kept, each time I come off the track with a win, I was tongue-in-cheek, kidding, but kind of just I was having fun with it. I kept reminding him about his thought that I should not be on the 500. So, but I loved the 500 bikes, and it took a lot of control to ride them. And
okay, so you were in the works bike era, right?
Yep. So in the beginning of my 500s, yeah. 2 of the years, yeah.
But it was still air-cooled, right?
It was, and that's where the old air hammer came from. The first Yamaha was, the engine configuration was very short stroke with a large piston, and the piston was like 92 millimeters, and the stroke was in the low 60s. And it had a power valve, and so when the power valve would close, it would increase the compression, and as the engine got hotter and hotter during the race, then that it was detonating, and you could hear the bike from a mile away rattling, and it got to be a real problem actually. In the latter part of the moto, the bike would detonate, and it would surge, and it became really difficult to even modulate the brakes, and if you're on a slippery corner, the thing was lurching and detonating. And so I ended up, partway through the series, I was complaining enough about it with my mechanic that John R. we disconnected the power valve, just opened it in the full open position and left it that way because it was just too difficult to try to even manage the bike later in the race. So, but it's, the 500s were definitely they were handfuls back then.
Yeah. What was the roost like at a 500 national? I mean, you were in the days of open face helmets too.
Yeah, I still see photos of me racing Carlsbad GP with open face, no mouth guard. I mean, sometimes I would start with a mouth guard, and if I was out front, I'd ditch the mouth guard just to breathe a little easier. And no chest protectors many times, and it was painful. It looked like you were shot with rock salt, but it's, I don't know, I still to this day like hard-hitting power bands. I mean, and I ride a YZ450 right now, and I got the app out, and I've got it on the full aggressive. Oh, absolutely. I'm on the full aggressive mode, and I put it on a mild mode, and it's like, this thing just, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. How
does a modern YZ450 compare to, the full-on factory full YZ490s of the past?
I think we weren't that far. I think peak horsepower is about pretty much, very similar. And but the modern motorcycle, with the fuel injection, electronic, all the electronics you have, the suspension, it's just, they're so much easier to ride, and they're so much more forgiving. I mean, if you make a mistake and you drops off the power for a split second, all you do is basically turn the throttle back open and it's there. It's the new bikes are so much more forgiving. That's why you see guys going so much faster on them. And the old open bikes, not that many people could ride them well, and that's kind of why. I mean, I know there's a lot of revisionist history, and it definitely chafes me a little bit, because the 500 class forever was the King's class. And if you look at the history of the sport, as soon as anybody, the 250 class never received the respect at the 500. The 500 class it's like in MotoGP. I mean, the MotoGP class is the premier class. The Moto2, the Moto3, hey, it's great racing, but it's not as you progress, your goal is to be MotoGP champion, and on 500. It was no different in motocross for decades and decades. And it got to the point, though, that just so few people could really ride them for how fast the bikes became. And the sales kind of slowed down a little bit. And we all rode 250s in Supercross, too. So I think it kind of killed the sport eventually. But I always bring this thing up. Hey, if the 500 class wasn't the premier class, I mean, what would Roger DeCoster's nickname be today? He's all his championships are on 500s. Honda didn't even field a 250 motocross team. They had all their players with the Eric Gabors, Andre Malherbe, you had David Thorpe, you had all these guys. They all rode the 500 class. So by far the premier class, the most important bragging rights. I mean, Brad Lackey chased 10 years to win his championship in '82, all in the 500 class. So 500 class was clearly the King's class. It was known as the King's class in Europe, and it was the premier class in the United States for a long time. So it's, I know things have changed, but we can't forget the history that was factual.
Yeah, absolutely not.